Hello everyone, and welcome to this Dom Labs tutorial where we learn how to create cool scene transitions inside of Unity and how to make this play button work. If you have not followed my last tutorial on how to create a main menu inside of Unity, I'd recommend you go and watch that before this tutorial, because we will need that once we have our main menu. The final product will look like this. When we click our play button, the scene transitions would happen, and then it will change our scene to a different scene where our game will be. Alright, so you can see here that I have lots of things inside of my hierarchy and down in my assets folder. This is because this video is a sequel to the video I posted last week on how to make main menus inside of Unity. If you have not watched that video, I would recommend you go and watch that one before you come to this one, where we learn about scene transitions. What we're going to do is we're going to create a little thing that's going to transition us from scene to scene. So let's right click in the scene, in the hierarchy, create a 2D object, a sprite, and then a circle. I'm going to name this scene change. You can see here it's very small and it's just not there. And the sprite renderer is the only component on it. What we're going to want to do is we're going to want to add an image component to it. This image is for canvas things, and it also adds a canvas renderer onto it. For the source image, it's going to look for a source image, so I'm just going to type in here a circle, click this check so I can check the circle, and then I'm going to change the color to black. And then I'm going to take this scene change and I'm going to drag it inside of my main menu canvas so it's inside of here. And if we scroll, we can just make this a bit bigger by pushing R. And then if we change the scale to something like 50, you can see, and if we change the color to black, it looks pretty normal. And it just looks like a square. If we go into our game view, we can see that it is right there. And what we're going to want to do is we're going to make this bigger so that it envelops the whole entire screen when we click the play button. So what we're first going to do is we're going to position this right over the play button, right in the middle, just so that it looks like it's originating from the play button. We can make it a bit smaller, and then we're going to want to create a new animation. So down inside of our assets folder, we're going to right click, create, and you can see we can create all of these things, but I'm going to go all the way down to here where it's animation and click animation. And then it's going to create a new animation. I'm going to name this scene change. And then once I have created this animation, it's just going to be an animation with nothing on it, and it's going to have nothing that it plays to. So I'm going to drag this scene change onto my scene change object, and then it's going to give me this animation controller. That means that this scene change is now able to play the scene change animation. And now we're going to want to do the animation. I'm going to click on this scene change animation and go to the animation window. I have this docked near my console, but you can go to window and then you can go to animation and click the animation window if you need it. I'm going to just dock it out right here so we can see it. And then you can see that our little circle right there is very small, but we want it to envelop the whole entire thing. And to create an animation, we're going to need to push this red button. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the scene change, and then all of this is going to light up because there is an animator component onto it on this. The animation window knows that there is an animation on here. So we're going to click this, and you can see this turns red, and that means we're able to change our animation. Right now it is very tiny, so if we just go like this, it will add a key, and this key is what this animation is. Right now on this key, it says scene change scale. We are changing the scale of our scene change, and that's what we want to do. So I'm going to go to about 1 second later and just take this scene change and zoom it all the way up so it fills the whole entire scene. You can see this white box, and this scene change is right above the box. And then you can see if I click on this, it says the scale. It means we're changing the scale. So if I click the play button, you can see that this gets bigger and bigger as these frames go up. and then that's what we want. So what we can do is we can X out of that window, go to our scene change. We have to make sure this loop time is not checked, because if it is, this is going to loop, and we don't want that to loop. So we are going to go into this animator window. If you don't have that, you can go to Window, Animation, and then go to the Animator. Where I'm just going to drag this out here, click on the scene change, and then I'm just going to check that this is correct. It says entry, and then there's a transition right to scene change. This is the animation, and this means that when this game object is on the entry, it will go straight to our animation, which is what we want. So I'm going to X out of that window. So I'm going to turn off this scene change for right now, so that it doesn't actually do anything until we turn it on. But I'm going to need to make it do something when we click the play button. So I'm going to open up our menu manager script inside of our coding editor. Once we are in our coding editor and in our menu manager script, you are going to see something that looks something like this. If your menu manager script does not look like this, I would recommend you go back to the How to Make a Main Menu in Unity video and watch that before you go to this one. But if you have, and your menu manager script does look like this, we're going to go to the on play button clicked method, and then we're going to go do this something to do to play the game. We're going to delete that, and then we're going to need to create some variables. Up at the top, let's create a public game object, and then this public game object, it's actually going to be our scene change. So we can just name it our scene change. And then what we're going to want to do is when the play button is clicked, we're going to get the scene change dot set active, and we're going to set it to true. So that means it is going to play its animation. And then we're going to want to change our scene over to the next scene, which the scene is going to be the scene of your game. Right here up at the top, you're going to need to type using Unity Engine.Scene Management here up at the top. You can see that I already have it up there. And then once you have Unity Engine.Scene Management in your code, we're going to go after the scene change, and we're going to type scene manager dot load scene. And this is going to load a scene, and it's going to look for a scene to load. So we can put a few things inside of here. We can put a string reference to the name of our scene. And the name of our scene is right up here. And my name of this scene is scene, which is pretty basic, but if you are just in a sample scene, yours will probably be named something like that. So what I'm going to do is go back into our coding editor, and inside of this, I'm going to create a new scene once we get back in the Unity editor, and I'll name it something like game. What you should have if you are making a game and you would like to add this main menu and scene transition is you want to put your game into a new scene and name that scene something like game or something like that, and then you're going to want to put that name inside of there. And then once our scene transition is finished, it will load the scene. But if you look closely right now, this scene manager.load scene is happening right after we set our animation to true. And that means if once our animation starts playing, it will immediately load our new scene, but we wanted to wait so our animation can finish. So what I'm going to do is go down to the bottom and create a new private IE numerator and name this scene change. And then I'm going to do parentheses, and then inside the parameters I'm going to type a float, and I'm going to name it time. And this is going to be the time to wait. So we're going to type some code inside of here. I'm going to type yield return new wait for seconds, and then parentheses, and inside of the parentheses time. And now what this line of code does is it stops our code for a certain amount of time, and that time would be this, something that we're going to put in our code. And then this IE numerator, that's just the return type, like a void, and this returns stuff like wait for seconds or wait for the end of the frame, things like that, so we can pause our code for a little bit of time. So once we have this, I'm going to take our scene manager, cut it, and paste it back into here. So now it's in our scene change, and then I'm going to go up to here, type start coroutine, and then a coroutine is what these wait for seconds are called. So if we want to call this method, we first have to write start coroutine, then we have to type scene change, and then parentheses. It's going to look for a time. I'm just going to put 2 seconds in there, so our animation can play before our game is loaded, our game scene is loaded. So we can go back into the Unity editor now, and once we're in our Unity editor, we're going to want to go to this manager game object where our menu manager script is on, and then for this scene change, I'm going to drag our scene change in. You can see here that I deleted the settings canvas just for simplicity inside of this because we won't be using it inside of this tutorial. So what we can do now is create our new scene. So I'm going to go to my scenes folder, and you can see here that I already have a scene named game. And then I'm going to go and click into this scene, and I'm going to scroll all the way into this main camera. And you can see here that there's nothing inside of this game scene right now, but this is where your game would be. If you were in a 2D platformer, you would have a player and a ground and lots of obstacles. If you were in a top-down shooter, you would have a little player with all the enemies around him that you have to shoot. And if you were in like a 3D game or something like that, you would have all of your objects inside of this scene, so that when our scene with our main menu canvas, when you click play, it's going to load into our game. And you're going to put your game name here, so when they click play, you will be able to play your game. Right now, I don't have anything in here because I didn't make a special game just for this tutorial, but I do have different games that I could have added to this if I wanted to. So, if we need to go check if this game scene is in our scene management. And to do that, we're going to go all the way up to the top here, click on File, and then Build Settings. Right here, it's going to, up at the top, it says Scenes in Build. And if you hover over it, it says which scenes to include in the build. The build is the final game when we export it. If we click Build and Run, that will actually play our finished game. We don't want to do that right now, just because we don't have a finished game, but if you do, you might want to click this Build and Run just to see if your game works. And then you have to make sure that both of your scenes are in your game. If you have more scenes, you have to make sure that all of them are in this build settings. If the scene is where our main menu canvas is, and the game is where our game is. If both of those scenes are in your game, then you are good to go, and you can just click X. If they're not, then you can just go to File, Build Settings, and then you can click Add Open Scenes. If I click that, nothing happens because I'm in my game scene right now, and my game scene is already inside my build settings. So I'm just going to click X, move back to my scene, and then I'm going to click play to see that our game is working. Once we are inside of play mode, it will look like something like this. Settings and quit, those buttons won't do anything right now just because I don't have a settings menu, and the quit button doesn't do anything inside of the Unity editor. But if I click play, our scene change should spawn and it should get much bigger. So if I click play, you can see that it did spawn, and now once our scene is loaded, I am in my game scene. I know that because inside of my hierarchy it says game now. And if I were in my scene, it would say scene up there. So that means our code worked. Our code right here, the start coroutine, that means that worked, and that's all good. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to make this play button work and create cool scene transitions inside of Unity. If you like this tutorial, please give our channel a like and a subscribe, and stay posted for every single Wednesday when I post a new video. Thank you!